Okay, hi all. I hope you hearing me well. So my name is Janina and I'm from Młodzieżowy Strajk Klimatyczny, which is part of Fridays for Future movement. Maybe you heard about it, and this is the Polish part of it. I have I don't know, do you see all the computer? Because I have some slides with photos that I can show you. You like to see it, or I don't know how well you see the computer. Yes, no. Some decisions. Yes, see yes somewhere. Okay. Okay, so I'm from Gdynia, so it's part of Trójmiasto. And as already said, this is the Fridays for Future Poland, and Młodzieżowy Strajk Klimatyczny, it's the same organization. So the whole movement started from Greta Thunberg, who walked out and sit in front of the parliament and started the movement of the school strike. And from that, like her friends joined, and a few months later, there was like the whole movement in the whole world. And in Poland, it started in 2019. And this is when me and a lot of my friends actually for the first time heard about climate change and why it's important and what are the consequences, because we don't talk about it in schools usually. I don't know what's your experience, but for me it was the first time that I actually started to read about it and found out, oh my god, this is like a huge problem and we need to find really quickly some solutions. And so how do we do it? Basically, the Fridays for Future movement is the movement of young people. It's all started from the 16 years old girl, and in every country, every city, it started like, you know, group of friends in high school sat down and said, okay, let's do something together. And for me, it was I had a really interesting story. I wanted to join the movement and actually help organizing things, and not only, you know, join the actions. But I couldn't find people in my city who would uh, who would be the organizers. So I waited for it because I said, okay, I can organize things, but it's so hard to start a new group, start a new movement. So I waited a few months, but after that, I decided to start a movement in my city, start a group. And I found one girl who was up to it, and she said that she's excited. She took her two friends, and together with four people, we started the group. And then along, we asked other friends to join us. And so it all started, you know, with the blank paper where we wrote down our ideas. So what I would like for you to know is this movement was created by the group of people like you. Basically, we decided that there is a need to do something for climate change, and we started to brainstorm how can we do it, and also we learned a lot in the process. Because, you know, in the beginning we didn't have anything, like any ideas, any know-how, any knowledge, because I don't know, you know, in school they don't teach you how to create a demonstration, for example. So it all started like fun, you know, we are creating banners, creating the name. We needed to create also our demands, which is also very important because we want other people to join, and for us one of the most important things is education. So we would like to educate young people about climate change, and we want them to join the global movement. But on the other hand, we also have climate strikes. So this is the part where we walk out on the streets and we say our demands for the politicians. And the most important ones is that we demand having the climate, like that the politics will be based on the IPCC report, which is like established by scientists from ONZ, so this is like international team. Then we also want to have the climate education in schools. Then we demand media to take the role of also educating people. We demand to have the energetic transformation. So we go from oil and coal to energy like solar energy or wind energy. So why do we walk out in the streets? Why we just, be zero waste or something like that? This is important, like also important, but there are some individual like changes that all of us can do, but also then there are like systematic changes. So we believe that if the government will sit down and set the new rules, we can actually achieve the goal that we want. So because we need to really quickly go to the net zero. This is like now the most important goal for the European Union. So we have the same amount of emission that we create, and as we can take back. So it's neutralizes itself. And that's why we walk out on the street. That's why we try to be heard in the public. That's why we also talk with local governments. That's why we talk with national governments, but also international. And this was also very important for us when the pandemic started, as our main idea and main actions are walking on the streets. And then, pandemic started, we cannot gather. And we started to do more online actions. And now we also try to, for example, educate people online a lot. We do webinars, we do some posts on social media where we explain how some stuff is working, what's going on with the world. Because not, this is also from strikes, because for us, the importance is of the solidarity, if a lot of people will go on the streets and will say that climate change is a priority, then the government can actually do something. And yes, for us, the most important part, or like the point in Poland, was when the campaign before the election started, and we as a movement created this demands of ours and went to all the politicians, all the parties, and asked them to sign the demands. And we like looked at it, and we created actually like this table that you can see that actually most of the parties agreed to something, and all of this is like connected to climate change, energy transition, climate education, and all of that. We also try to collaborate not only on the national level, but also on international level. And on the last COP, which is like the international meeting of the people in power who are coming together and talking about the way, like where the climate change, where the political should go. And actually, we had a really strong activists from Poland who joined the global, international team of young activists who demanded to be heard, basically, because we believe that we as young people have a lot to say, because this is not only about our lives, but also about the lives of our children and their children. If we don't do anything now, we can't really say anything about the future. It's not because they're not gonna be the end of the world, like in the movies, or everything is so black and there is no word. But the thing is that the farther we go, the harder for us is to predict what's gonna happen. We cannot say how it's gonna go later. The changes in climate. And as I said before, the education is one key of our movement is the talking with politicians and creating a new perspective on the politics of climate change. But the second is the education. And what we usually do is we do all kind of webinars, meetings, we do some workshops in schools, but also we are creating memes basically to talk about climate change and talk about what's going on right now. And yes, this is so for me the most important part of our movement is that this is one of really not a lot of groups which was created by young people and is managed by young people, and we learn a lot on our way. We try to learn from each other. We try to understand how actually the democracy works, how can we participate in it. Because for me, for example, it was a big, I felt that it was a big achievement, because when I turned 18, the first thing that I did establish a movement in my city and created a demonstration for 600 people on the streets, like on the main street. And this is something that nobody taught me how to do. But because we had this beautiful network of people in the city, then on the national level, and then on the international level, we learn how to communicate with each other, how to collaborate, and how to actually create changes in our environment. So that's what we all from my side. But I'm really interested about your perspective. Do you have any maybe questions first? Anyone? Anything? No? Okay, I have a question then for you. Oh yes, okay.
No, you can continue.
Okay, because I talk about the democratic participation, and this is basically something new that we don't usually do, or no, people do not talk about it in schools. So I have a question for you. Who ever participated in a demonstration? You can raise your hand.
Whoever participated in a demonstration. Kto uczestniczył w jakiejś demonstracji, w strajku, kiedykolwiek?
Okay, I see some hands.
Okay, 7 maybe.
Okay, nice. And have you ever participated in maybe Fridays for Future demonstration? Do you know the Fridays for Future from your city, country?
Sorry.
Nie, to mój to zawsze o 5 zwolił tego dnia. Tak, ja nie mam
We had some like sound issues, so please could you repeat the second question for us?
Yes. Have you ever participated in Fridays for Future demonstration? Or have you heard about it in your city, in your country?
I can guess that no one heard.
That's okay, because last week why I asked you about it, because usually this is not something that we tend to do, or this is not, because it's not very clear how going on the demonstration can help the climate change. Because we heard about, I can do something else in my life, for example, eliminate plastic, and then I know that it's gonna be less plastic in the world. But if I'm going to the demonstration, how can I change the world? So I just wanted to say that for example, for us in Poland, I can see the achievements because the climate change was not really in public eye. And when we started to have the demonstration, we are not the only movement who are talking about it. Of course, it's not only us, but to us, like joins, for example, there is movement of parents for climate who are talking about this, that they want future for their kids. Then there is also, we had a beautiful movement with grandmas for climate, and they also talk about similar things, about that they know that they fucked up a little bit in their lives, but now they want to somehow pay for it, and they see the changes. And then the media actually understood that this is an important topic. They started to write about it, and what for us was really important, to start to call, not that it's a global warming, because it's not saying anything, but to say climate catastrophe. And it started to arrive in one media, pop up, and then more and more people started to talk about it. And then it was easier to talk with local government, for example. And we had in our city, for example, local government asked people, what would you like to change? Because we know that this is an important topic for you. And then we could go to the national government, and for example, we sat down and talked with the Minister of Education of how to start the climate education in schools. So we actually arrived at the next and next levels. And for example, today I read the news on my friend's Instagram that she went with activists from Ukraine, Belgium, and Germany. So there are 4 of them, and they all went to the European Parliament and sat down and talked about how European Union why we need to transfer from gas and oil, especially which we import from Russia. And why? Because now it's a big issue that we are actually financing the war. So step by step, they managed to go to the European Parliament and now talk about the resolution on the international European Union level. So you can say that, if I go out on the street in my city, I'm actually not doing anything, but then they actually see that, okay, more and more people are interested in the topic. They see that it is important. So maybe it's time for us to change something. Maybe it's time for us to start to listen. What are they saying? So this is from my side.
So first, making the problem visible and then waiting for the reaction. Because when it's not visible, they cannot somehow, or they don't want to change anything. All right, thank you a lot. Do you have any questions? Still no. We have very shy youths, but I think that we are going to process that and we will talk also about that. So thank you very much for your visits. It was a pleasure to have the representatives of this institution here with us, and good luck with your future actions. And I hope that you will manage with all your changes and so on. So because you are fighting for all of us. So thank you a lot.
If you're gonna have any questions later, of course, you have my email, so you're free to just write.
Thank you
So
very
thank
much.
you.